Yourself, what level did you pick?
I picked Space Zone 1, which is sort of the second level, really, of the space sequence because the first level is Hippo Zone, or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
which itself plays with gravity gimmicks.
Yeah.
I noticed that there's like a little ghost constellation up to the left and a lobster next to it.
I'm
See
not.
that to the left? To the left of Happy, see how there are two eyes for the ghost?
I see two stars.
Okay, and those are like the eyes,
Yeah.
and then it has a little black circular face, and then a little cloak around it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it looks more like the ghost from Bubble Bobble than a Poe. The first thing you notice in Space Zone, Mario now jumps, what's that, like double his normal jump height?
It's a lot.
Yeah, and he moves pretty slowly throughout it. And also slowing down the movement is that the run button does nothing in this level. Anytime you are modifying what the player control mechanics are in a stage, it's inherently going to lend a different character to the platforming. So every jump is automatically different from what it is in a regular stage because you're learning or you're dealing with different Mario mechanics than what you deal with in other stages.
There's not a lot of flat ground in this level. Even right in the beginning, they have a lot of those bumps, and you can't even run over those bumps, so they force you to jump more.
Yeah, I think it has sort of a constant, like a slow-mo feel to it, where you're drifting through the level, basically. The way they play to that in particular is that, for one thing, they use longer jumps. This is a stage where you're frequently going to be jumping to a landing point off screen, basically. Like these spike pits, you can't see the end of them from the launch point. Even the first crater that you come across.
Yeah, there's that horizontal aspect, but there's also the vertical aspect where even if you just jump straight up, the ground below you is off screen for a long time.
Right, so because there's so much height to the level and so little in terms of suspended platforms, whenever you're jumping up on those little blocks up high, whenever you're done getting whatever secret or whatnot, you end up drifting back to the ground and it's going to take you, many screens below where you were or where you launched from.
Yeah, I'm always nervous doing that.
Yeah, so the lack of speed or the slow gravity makes it so you can handle it a lot better. There are places where, if you are drifting down in the middle of a spike pit, you're going to get stuck and have to take damage. But for the most part, there's pretty ample time to react when you're on your way down. I think that the main thing that characterizes the platforming is just the distended openness of it all. It is a fairly empty level, so when you're looking around for those hidden platforms and stuff, you're really not guided by any particular landscape, but just by, like, how far can I jump with Mario? How far can I get him to go to the left or right of this platform?
Yeah, I like how the pig enemies play into that, in that, your jump height is increased, and also your gravity is decreased. So there's a lot of time spent in the air, so naturally they have an enemy that sends something up to meet you.
Those cannonball guys shoot out a pretty slow-moving angled projectile that effectively is just another enemy. I guess in any context you can debate whether or not a projectile qualifies as an enemy.
But you can attack it.
Right. Most importantly, you can bounce on it. And that can actually help you make some of your jumps bouncing on it. And it tends to be easier just to bounce across those or jump over the enemies than to fight them directly. because when you stand on the ground, you're a bit more vulnerable in this level because you move slower. You're better off just going over things or jumping on top of them. And most of them are confined to very small platforms as well. They're in these really specific spots where they only affect a particular area of the level. But because this is such an open level, that means there's also a lot of different angles you can come at them from. You can jump over a lot of these guys, but then you can come back and get them. Or you might be coming from a couple screens up, falling down to the ground because there's so much open space above the level, and you jump so high and have such a long trajectory that a lot of times you're just going to sort of be floating back down to the Earth or to the moon.
I hope not the Earth.
To bounce on their heads. So they're not particularly threatening as long as you're staying in the air a lot. Likewise, the rocket ships are confined to whatever platform they're circling around.
What would you say is the theme of this level?
Once again, I think we have a really nice organic theme here. It is moon themed. The ground is pockmarked and cratery, and there's nowhere flat that you can just wander around. The low gravity, the sort of bounciness to it, the lack of a lot of structure or architecture in the suspended platforms gives you that sense of emptiness or like
Adrift
free
in space.
Right. You know, it's centered on that low gravity and all built around that into sort of an airy, drifting, floaty moon level.
Okay. How would you characterize the flow of the level?
Because you're going to be jumping a lot and you don't need to stop very often because things are spread out, that keeps you in constant motion. So it has a moon bounce feel to it where you're always going up and down. You're not necessarily always going left and right. I think there's more fluctuation in sort of the horizontal pacing.
How would you say that UFO guy fits in?
He's just a pain in the ass to get over from the ground. It, again, is pushing you into the air, encouraging you to float down on him from above. He's definitely more complex than the other enemies because he's doing a semicircular pattern and he's shooting these bombs that are also a semicircular pattern. So it's always a little weird to read the trajectory that's going to happen, but it does tend to encourage the same approach as everything else does.
That's like that's not a UFO, that's a planet, right?
No, it's a UFO with feet.
Okay.
Planets don't have eyes. And now I'm standing on top of like this finger that's pointing up. I think it's a middle finger.
I think Moon Bounce perfectly describes that path to the secret exit where you just hold right and you constantly jump at the same pace.
Those jumps, they don't require the full jump, do they?
I believe they do, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
they do? Okay.
You have to hold down the A button, but not the up.
Okay, so there's not a chance that you can overshoot those.
No, that's what we were talking about, where only with the high jump can you overshoot them.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is what makes it, or what gives it that sort of bouncy feel, that you don't ever have to hesitate in just holding right and tapping A as you land.
You know, one thing in this level I only noticed when looking at the map is that there's a constellation that spells out happy. I don't know if you can see
Yeah.
that when you actually play it.
So the only way I can think you'd be able to see that is if you had Bunny Mario and got to this level.
Bunny Mario doesn't float in space.
Oh, he doesn't float in space. You don't get Bunny Mario in this stage, so there's no way to test it unless you come in with him.
Hmm.
But yeah, I didn't know that until I saw the map either. I mean, I don't know how you would possibly know it without seeing the map.